Welcome to the Great Awakening Report's Connected Series podcast. Hi, Truth Seekers. I'm Mark, publisher and editor of the Great Awakening Report, and your host for this transformational journey. The Connected Series is your compass for navigating this time of accelerated change, global awakening, and deep disclosure. Each episode, we explore the core themes shaping our collective consciousness, drawing from our monthly reports, our Truth Seeker weekly reports, Awakening Sleeping Giant weekly reports, and our special reports. We go beyond the headlines and revealing insights, powerful audio reviews, and higher conscious commentary designed to help you connect the dots and stay aligned in the midst of global transformation. I'm honored to be joined today by my co host, Craig Cook, a devoted truth seeker who brings grounded wisdom, conscious presence, and a heartfelt clarity to every conversation. Craig, welcome to the podcast. It's always a gift to have you here with us today.
Thanks, Mark. It's good to be here, and it's always a gift to me as well to share and with each other and also the audience.
Yeah, that's great. Let's begin and talk about our first episode, or talk about this episode, I should say. We're offering a guided overview of the Great Awakening Report website and its powerful framework for conscious learning and research. We'll explore how our monthly, weekly, and special reports work together to provide a comprehensive lens on global events, hidden truths, and higher awareness. We'll also break down our Connected Series podcast and also our audio reviews, and how these elements support your journey as a truth seeker. Together, these tools reflect our mission to inspire personal awakening, cultivate unity consciousness, and elevate our awareness through self guided exploration and authentic connection. So let's dive in. Let's get started.
Let's do it.
So let's do what we'll do is start with our homepage. And just to give you a little bit of background, and I think you've been in the business, so you understand this, and maybe you can explain it in a little more detail. But we designed our website as a database management system. And the reason why is the information that I've been doing research on the internet is unbelievable. But I only know or have seen, probably from a topic title standpoint, about 80% of what's out there. What we think what's coming is that the internet will probably quadruple or maybe 10 times or 10x the amount of information once full disclosure happens. And also, with full disclosure, everything changes, the math, all of our education. So everything's going to be kind of thrown out. And then we're going to have all this new information on basically everything we've ever learned. It's going to be completely different. So that's why we created this database management system to manage all that information.
Yeah, I would say that it's going to be at least a 10x for sure, especially with the advent of how AI is developing.
Right.
It is more information comes out, and then you get AI into the mix, also processing all that new information.
Right.
It's going to probably, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 10x on top of the 10x.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, and also next is we came up with what we call 8 friendly primary topics, and we have 57 plus, and they keep going subtopic titles. Now, this 8 primary topics that we'll get into and show you, this kind of covers the full spectrum of information. But what that does, it helps you break it down because most of the people that are newly awakened, they come in and they're just overwhelmed. It's like, oh my God, look at all this information. And how would I even want to start to try to get in and try to learn about this? So, what and the Great Awakening Report and our website, and especially our homepage, we try to have everything on the homepage for free, and we designed it so that if you're newly awakened, just stay on the homepage. We put free information. Everything on there is free, and you can come and go as you please as you learn to get started. And we also have a 4-step process, which I'll show you here shortly, where it makes it easy for you to kind of get through the early stages of understanding, and then for you to begin your journey. And the journey is becoming a truth seeker. Next is I want to talk about the byline, and it's really important at the top. Uh, we use a byline of global transitional research and consulting. So Our team basically comes from a professional background, and our professional background, we put together all this information so people can have access to it and they can relate to the information as kind of coming out of the matrix, if you will, into consciousness. But at least in that transition, they have somebody that they can trust and feel like that's publishing the information with some kind of framework to bring honesty and integrity to the information that we're putting forward. So that's why we use the global transitional research and consulting, is we want people to understand that we're professional people and that we're approaching all of our information, our reports from a professional standpoint.
Yeah, that's important to note because with a lot of this information, sometimes people can think it's like a little out there. Sometimes people put the label on there, woo woo, and people tend to maybe not take it seriously. But when you come from a professional standpoint, a perspective, a professional background, and you start to talk about this, it's much more relatable. And people start to understand that, oh, there's people that are very reasonable. They're not a hermit living in the mountain. They're actually grounded in reality and going through it every day, just like I am. And oh, okay, let me take this a little more seriously. So that's important.
That's right on. Thank you. Now let's talk about transforming darkness to light. And a lot of the pushback we get is, hey, there's too much negative information. I'm a little overwhelmed. I really don't want to get into this information. So what we normally say to people is, you're not ready. But once you move in and you're awakened, part of the process that you're about is transforming darkness to light. And what that means is that if you're get a reaction, or if you have a reaction to any negative information, that's usually stemming from you and your fears. It has nothing to do with the information. What we're going into and what we're traversing as far as this transition is we have to transform all darkness to light. And that's first the darkness within ourselves, and then also the darkness on the outside that's affecting us. And so, what we say is being informed and being educated is the true path to an authentic truth seeker. And what that transforms inside of everybody is that light that you bring to negative information. And also in our website, we kind of don't present that up front. We make it in layers, and a lot of our layers are compartmentalized. And one of the toughest things for everybody is the human trafficking, and really when you get down to the children. And there's a lot of things I've chosen not to see. But as far as being informed, I need to be informed so I can make a stand when it counts. And that means when we have a collective consciousness about trafficking, that we will never allow that to happen ever again on this planet. And once we collectively make that decision, that's when we're really transforming the darkness on this planet to light. So I just wanted to make sure that I stress the point. A lot of people, when they push back about dark or negative information, this is our response, is that it's important for you to push through because it's your fear. It's not the dark information. It's your fear that's reacting. And what you should do is release that fear. So then you'll move into the light and transforming from your light, transforming the darkness.
Yeah, and one of the images here that are on the homepage as it cycles through is the red pill and blue pill. And if we look back at the movie The Matrix, where that became popularized, is when the red pill is taken, there's the awakening, right? But someone could choose to ignore the
Yes.
truth, the
Right.
reality, blue
Right.
pill, to stay ignorant. But by taking the red pill, what happened in the movie, Neo awakens in the real world, and then he learns the truth, and the truth is very unsettling. He actually has it overloads his nervous system, and he has a physical reaction to that. So that what you everything you just stated is witnessed in that movie as a metaphor to awakening and the shock that comes about it. But then what happens is then there's the ongoing struggle to transform that darkness to light. That's the objective, right? So yep. It's
Another thing we added to all of our reports, and also some of the parts of the homepage, is we use positive quotes and verses, and with throughout. That means whether it's in the topic titles. So what we do is we use that as to transform. So we're actually using words and we're using quotes and we're using verses that are positive, that transform anything that's in that report into light. So it's really important that everyone know that we're very conscious about it, that we're very conscious, aware of what we're doing and what we're publishing and how we're going about these reports and how they're constructed. So we're very conscious that the positive quotes and the positive verses and the positive energy is there within that report. It's laid in there in the words and in the language. And so that translates to your thoughts. So that's where it all begins. So the next part I want to go into is we found in our research there were 7 movements that define the Great Awakening. And I kind of briefly want to go through this. And I want to allow you to kind of back me up or comment on any one of these 7, Craig. So let's start with the truth movement. This is the 9/11, kind of the inside job. This is also health and education in exposing the food industry. So this is what we call the truth movement.
Yeah, I'd say this is like layer one. Yeah, when we were talking about 7 movements,
Right.
7 layers, one can think of it in that terms. It's just like the first movement in the symphony, or layer one, where, at least for me, it was, after 9/11 happened, and then learning how it wasn't really what it appeared to be. And then these other topics, subtopics here of health and education, food industries, et cetera, how it's definitely the first layer where you start to notice that the world isn't as it seems.
Right. Next, we have the patriot movement. And this is unveiling the geopolitical, whether it's international, whether it's our country, the United States, or whether it's the state that we live in, or the local governments, the city governments. This is mayors and attorney generals. So any elected official, this is where there's control or there's captured operations, and also the institutional control. What institutions have been captured and are controlling, such as I think for a time the FBI, the DOJ. So all of these 3-letter agencies have major, major problems. So that's what we call the patriot movement.
Yeah, and for another way for people to understand it is really with the system that this government was founded upon here in the United States, adhering to that system, because that's where freedom lies, which is leading to the next movement, right, Mark?
Yeah, yes, and that's the freedom movement. And this is exposing the planetary ruling pyramid or grid, if you will. And this is the financial control system. So we want freedom from the control system is the prison. It's a debt. The debt system is the prison system. And also navigating the influence of captured operations or disruptive movements, such as movements like Black Lives Matter and also Antifa. So these are the disruptive movements that have been paid for and instituted by different organizations and to basically push against everything that we're trying to do from a freedom movement standpoint.
Yeah, and that's really in the past year or two, especially, you start to see how it's really, really spreading worldwide, how much people value freedom.
Let's move on to the hidden history movement, rediscovering hidden and suppressed ancient histories. The Tatarian Empire, that's a really hot one that we're seeing. And we've done a special report on it, actually 2 versions, part 1, part 2. And also to learn that the Smithsonian Institute was created to actually hide all the giants that they were discovering back in the late 1800s. Some of these giant skeletons, which I hear they have warehouses full of skeletons, and some of these skeletons are 35 feet tall. And the skulls, a human can actually stand inside of it. So our ancient history and near history, they've definitely been rewritten. There's also civilization resets. There's all kinds of different conversations. There's flat Earth. There's all kinds of information that's been bantied around that it must be resolved as far as to get the truth out about what our real history really is.
Yeah, and this is where, say there's that first layer I mentioned, and I'd say maybe the first 3 topics that we talked about are encompassed in that. first layer. So those three movements. But now, as we get into this movement, this is like the next layer where all of a sudden it's like, whoa.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
this is where the mind starts to get blown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right. Now let's move into the disclosure movement. This is full disclosure versus partial disclosure. And what this revolves around is definitely what UAPs or UFOs and then extraterrestrial life. So that's the bottom line. And quite frankly, it's all over the universe and there's millions and millions of human types of human DNA all over our galaxy. So it really comes down to what we call the UFO versus the secret space program. There was a kind of a civil war going on between those two groups. But the essential thing we're learning right now is what's going on in Washington is part of the what we call partial disclosure. But what we're working for is we're working for full disclosure. And we also think there's coming first contact definitely within this year's time frame, which we're hearing about from multiple different sources. So this is an exciting time, and this movement and also this area in our website, we call it the disclosure files. This could eventually, in the future, be one of the largest areas that we'll be reporting on. Definitely once disclosure starts to happen.
Yeah, and this is just continuing the wow, I'm blown away layer, where I would just recommend people to just have an open mind for possibilities as you get into this layer and your mind is blown through all these various subtopics. Just keep an open mind to possibilities. That's the best way I can put it.
That's a good point. What we say to people and what I've found out is this is kind of the last area that people move into. And we'll get into this when we go through the report. But yes, you're correct. This is kind of the woo woo, and this is where people need a little bit more information before they're ready to kind of move into this area. So we should just say, hey, if you run across information that just doesn't feel right, you move on. And that's how the report's built. You scan through it, you scroll through it, and you can kind of move through information. But what you want to do is go where you want to go. And I'll get into kind of how we built the reports here in a minute. It's built on an intuitive basis. So it kind of goes where you want to go. But let's finish up with these last two. The consciousness movement is this is the universe is conscious. A consciousness manifests matter into being, and everything constructed in our universe is based on consciousness. So, and also consciousness is our real connection with source.
Yeah, I like to state that this label consciousness, people can think of it as the ultimate highest divine level of source. You know, the all that is the Tao, just everything
Yeah, I
that
like that. That's great. Next is the spiritual movement. Now, this is a transitional movement, I believe, but I believe it's still there. A lot of people are in this movement, and that's why we mention it. This is kind of where you get in religion versus spirituality, and this is the path of ascension and the battle for consciousness. This is kind of where it begins. So this movement is part of everybody that's visiting our site and looking at what we're doing, but it's definitely transitioning more into the consciousness movement as we go through.
yeah, and you mentioned here religion versus spirituality as part of the spiritual movement, and there's that duality aspect, but it is moving towards that consciousness movement. We're still in this duality thing, but religion was kind of like one step, and the spirituality is another step, but they're kind of at odds at times. But ultimately, the path is towards the ultimate consciousness, right?
That's correct. That's good. Good point. All these movements, I want to go into this because I think it's very important, but all these movements actually collapsed around July 2021 because of the pandemic and because of mass censorship that took off. We also had a new election, a new president at the time. And so this was a really difficult period of time for everybody. Most of our work was suppressed, but right now we've moved most of these movements have recovered, and we're moving into what we call the second great awakening, and it's totally in full bloom. But also, I think the deep state or the shadow government, I think it's being taken down, and I think its institutions are crumbling if you're really informed and you're able to kind of look through all the propaganda that we're hearing, you're really beginning to see the fact that these institutions are not going to be around in very short order. Okay, so let's move on to the GAR homepage. And I just want to go through some of the components of it so you'll understand how we constructed it and how it works. So the lead gallery, the lead photo gallery, it's 12 different photos. It really kind of describes kind of what we're all about, and it does it. And we're really big on photography. So it really kind of gives you a feel of what each one of the topics are from our gallery. The second is the introductory video. But the most important thing is, our lead our lead text is: the world is a strange and confusing place right now. You have questions and we have answers. And I think that is very important that you understand that's what we try to do at the Great Awakening Report is we try to take your questions in all the different formats and we really try to answer them. And that was our goal and that's our mission.
What was great about this homepage as we're going through it, you mentioned it earlier that all of this content is for free. Obviously there's a paid version for additional content, which helps support all this work and effort because it's a massive undertaking. It takes a lot of time and effort to put all this stuff together. But the most important thing is that the information gets out there, right? So it's just wonderful that all this information here on the homepage is free.
Yeah. And also, we publish on our report that we have 97,000 Awaken subscribers. Now we go back and what this total makes up on, we had, before we were censored, we had 80 some thousand on Facebook, and we were 50, 60,000 on almost every different social media website. And we were really rocking and rolling before that July of 2021. But obviously, we're recovering from that now. And then next is we published, we're 8 years running, we published over 684 published reports. And then we have 800 and active, I should say, 879 sources, which we think we're actually using more like 1,500 sources. The other thing about these sources of information, we think we still haven't found another 1,000, maybe 2,000.
Wow.
And this is the size of this great awakening is really incredible because a lot of these people don't have a voice and they can't get heard. But when you really get into it, what I'm finding in my research, I find 2 or 3 new sources every week. And
And that's
just
the
not
importance of the database system that you mentioned earlier, how all this information is even
right,
manageable. It's through
right.
the platform.
Absolutely. Next, we have a kind of a catalog display for you of 18 different of our most recent reports. And we thought it would give you a really good feel of kind of what we're publishing. The thumbnails are really descriptive of what the content is inside of those, or at least the primary content. So we thought it would be really important to put the thumbnails of our podcast and our weekly reports and our monthly reports in just kind of a kind of an 18, what we call a catalog window display for you to look at. So that'll really be helpful when you really try to understand kind of what we're doing and what we're all about. The next section is really important, and we'll step into this, which is what I think are the 4 steps to the awakening process. And the first step is you begin the journey. And so we also start is how you got here. Our belief is that you found us, we don't find you, and that it's your time. If you found us, it's also your time. We also talk about who we are, and we're a dedicated community of truth seekers. We're unraveling, unwavering, I should say, in our commitment to researching and uncovering the truth, reality, comprising awakening researchers, investigators, truth seekers. Our subscribers are united in the pursuit of authentic information and elevating the collective consciousness of our planet. So that's kind of who we are. Next is we try to describe who you are. And we describe you as potentially newly awakened and that you've come to our homepage. And that's why we want you to stay on our homepage. You can come and go as you please. It's all for free. There's no way you can take in all that information at one time. So just come and go as you please. And once you get comfortable, we call it, then you take the next step and you really want to get into research. And that's where we call you become a truth seeker. So you familiarize yourself with the homepage, and then you gain a deeper understanding. of your own awakening experience, and then you're ready to embark upon what we call the path of becoming a true seeker. Next is the conscious awakened. And this is the third kind of step in the process. And when you consciously awaken, that's when you've gotten enough information, you've really done your research and homework, and all of a sudden, this is a soul, what we call a soul's choice. And there's a spiritual path component to it. There's also some events that are coming down in the future that are connected. So this is really when you're on your spiritual path, one way to look at it. And there's definitely a conscious and spiritual path involved. But once this all comes together, there's really three primary practices that we put forward that basically break you free from the matrix. And one is the observer report that we put together. Next is the conscious practice reports that we do every other month. And then the last is the heart of a volunteer.
Yeah, it's great. And I just want to also comment as people are going through this homepage, all the art is just absolutely beautiful, which is just creates an experience that's augmented through the creative art that allows you to stay engaged and be sticky with this information because it could get pretty daunting after a while because there's so much, but the creativity and the art that's displayed here is just fantastic.
Also, want to make a special note there's an awakening guidelines, and there's about 10 different guidelines that I think everybody would want to review. And this is in your step one. So that's the last part of step one is where you read through those guidelines and you'll identify with those. It'll be real clear for you that, hey, this is where I'm supposed to be. Next is step two, which is navigating the platform. And this all talks about the user experience. It also talks about our community, who we are, what we're like. And then the new content changes we've made. We've made updates and how those changes evolve from time to time. And then there's another simple awakening guideline that goes with step two.
Yeah, and again, part of that experience, the user experience that you mentioned, is just the ease of navigation and getting around and the art that helps guide the eye to getting to the information that you need as quick as possible.
Great. Let's look at step three, connecting the dots. And this is really important. We've actually designed a report that kind of digs into it. Plus, our podcast that we're doing today is called Connecting the Dots. But that is a content manager. The step three is our content manager. It shows you how we put things together. So what we're saying is we manage the content for you, and we select it, we filter it, we make sure it fits with each one of our primary categories. So we do the work for you. And I think that's the most important thing. Next is there's new content models that we're evolving all the time to keep changing. We believe this is coming from the consciousness of the collective that kind of guides us in what kind of information and what kind of formats that people want to see information. And then the last part, which is part of what this step three is goes deeper into the understanding of what it is to connect the dots and how that works.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize the methodology that is put in play. Yeah, that happens all behind the scenes, but there's these methodologies we have that allow us to aggregate content, but not just copy and paste. It's actually a very proprietary, methodical process of how we're gathering information and connecting the dots from one set to another, all managed in this platform. And as you said, Mark, it's all the work that we do for the subscriber.
That's right. Let's step into step four. Become a truth seeker, educated and informed. This is really important that you understand becoming a truth seeker is once you leave the matrix, we call it crossing the bridge of no return. And once you cross that bridge, you cannot go back.
You can.
And so, and what that bridge is, it's being educated and informed. So once you're educated, informed of a new reality, which we'll talk about, once you get a glimpse of that new reality, once you get a handle on it and you get a vision for it, you don't want to look back. Because if you look back, that's where the matrix is. You keep your head and you keep your eyes going forward, and that's your direction, that's your purpose, and that's where you're going. The next step is the matrix deprogramming. It's a natural thing in the Great Awakening report, in all of our reports, that it's deprogramming. Everything you're reading, everything you're doing, everything you're looking at, The whole process, like Craig says, down to the photography and the energy that we try to build around not only the website but our reports, the positive energy, that's all connected to your deprogramming. So it's really important. The reason why you're doing this work is you're deprogramming yourself, which is the most important thing. The next is I've already kind of talked about this a little bit, but there's an exciting new reality that awaits you. And once you get a glimpse of it, you're not going to let it go. And it's definitely takes you away from the matrix reality, which is difficult because you're in transition. But this new reality is exciting. And then at the end of step 4, now you're ready to join our community and become a true seeker.
Yeah, and then you can really take off from there. But you're primed, you're ready from all the prior absorption of content that you've gone through in the first 3 steps.
Very good. And I want to step now into the free reports and what we offer for free. We take almost all of our reports that are in the paid per view section, and we make those for free after 2 months. So most of that information is elapsed over a 2-month period of time, but it'll give you a good idea. A lot of people use those reports for additional research. Our podcast, these are our free podcast, and we post those several every month. And then the must watch videos. A lot of people, instead of watching movies, they watch our documentary content. And we have a ton of documentaries that are very, very important and that are most interesting to watch. And so we highly recommend, and those are for free too, highly recommend looking at our must watch videos. And then last in this section is our GAR maps, which is one of the most important things on this front page. Why that's important is these are kind of roadmaps, kind of a mind mapping, if you will, of the deep state, which is mind boggling. So there's 2 primary maps we recommend you look at, which is one is the deep state map. And that goes back, and it's a kind of current reflection of where things are, but it's a historical review of all the systems and the organizations, which is probably a better way to label them, that are in place or been put in place for definitely 2 or 3 centuries. It's unbelievable what they built and what they've done. The Great Awakening map is really a current, kind of where we are currently and where we're headed in the future. So that's what I like about the Great Awakening map. It kind of gives you an idea of where all this is headed. So those are the 2 primary. There's the health maps and there's all kinds of other maps that are really important for you to look at. But this map section, you'll spend a lot of time in, but it really lays the foundation for kind of how we built our website is based on these GAR maps. Next is the on the homepage is the GAR Q&A section, which is it's kind of asking the questions that you're going to ask. Who is this Great Awakening report for? What are you going to get from becoming a subscriber? And next is what will you be able to do after you subscribe? So these are the 3 key questions we ask, and then we listed the answers. So I think you'll find this very, very informative and very educational as to why you want to be a member of our community.
From all the content that you mentioned, even those maps are they're just amazing. You can spend hours just looking at one of those maps and digesting all the content. It's an amazing amount of content. But this is a great section because people always have questions and how do I go further and further. So this is just a great thing for people to take a look at and what the benefits are for actually becoming a subscriber.
Okay, and now we move into the 3 subscriber options. We've got a free option. We've got the $11.95, which is the standard, and then we have the premium, which is the $19.95. And also we've got some testimonials for everyone to see and review, so you get just a little bit of feel of what people are saying about the Great Awakening report.
Lots of testimonials. People are loving it, but that's because there's a real pure intention, very intentional effort to get this information out there, and there's so much effort that's put into it. So it shows, and people appreciate it.
Do you have any closing comments?
Well, everyone that's been listening to us, it's a lot. I know it sounds perhaps a bit overwhelming, but I recommend just take it a bit at a time. A little section at a time. You don't have to go dive into the deep end of the pool. You can just take the first step in the shallow end and just on the steps, put your feet in and get them wet, and sit down and just hang out and sit in the pool with just your feet, and then come back and take the next step, and then suddenly you find you're up to your waist, and eventually you'll dive into the deep end, and it's just going to be a really amazing experience as you go through all the content and all this information.
Thank you for spending time with us and exploring the Great Awakening Report, your guide to truth, transformation, and higher consciousness. We invite you to continue your journey through our reports, podcast, and online courses as we navigate this great awakening together. Until next time, stay awake, stay aligned, and as always, keep connecting the dots.